When I woke up in the middle of the night to use the toilet, I didn't expect to come face to face with a demon. But that's exactly what happened when I got up at 3 a.m. and went into the bathroom. I should warn you now that what I am about to tell you isn't something you want to hear before bed. So if you have sensitive nerves, then stop watching this video right now. I don't want to be responsible for any nightmares or sleepless nights. That being said, let me begin by saying that I've never been a superstitious person. Ghosts, demons, the devil himself, none of it has ever bothered me, not one bit. And I say that now, but all of that changed after that fateful night when I first saw the demon. To make matters worse, I've seen him many times since, and every time it's been more terrifying than the last. Before I get into the specifics though, let me paint a picture of my apartment. It's just a normal studio apartment in downtown Manhattan. The only unusual thing about the apartment is the bathroom. You see, it's oddly small and the shower is shaped like an upside-down bathtub, which is weird. The ceiling is also slanted because of the roof, and there's barely any room between the toilet and the sink. Despite the size of the bathroom, the mirror takes up almost half of one wall, and that's where I first saw the demon. It was 3 a.m. and I was fast asleep when I suddenly woke up and had to use the toilet. You know when you wake up like that? You don't go into the bathroom to pee. You go into the bathroom to do the no-to. That's exactly what I did, except I never expected to find a demon sitting on my toilet. The bathroom was dark, but the hallway was well lit because of the neon light coming from the AC unit across the hall. And when I turned on the light switch, I could see the demon clearly. He was tall and skinny, like one of those stick people you draw when you're in elementary school. His skin was gray, and he had sharp teeth. But his face wasn't scary, nor was his posture. He looked normal, like a guy who just wanted to take a dump and get back to bed. I mean, does a demon know how to flush a toilet? I wasn't scared at first, but I was definitely confused. What was a demon doing in my apartment? Was he there to drag me down to hell? I stood there thinking, and the demon looked at me and spoke. "Excuse me," he said politely. "Are you done?" I was taken aback by his voice. It sounded normal, like he wasn't a demon, even though I could see clearly that he was. It was then that I realized the most important thing. He wasn't looking at me through the mirror. He was looking at me directly. He wasn't a reflection. That meant he wasn't trapped in the mirror. He was standing right behind me. In fact, he was closer to me than my own reflection. I could feel his hot, fetid breath on my neck, and it smelled like sulfur. Of course, I freaked out. I screamed and fell backwards. My head hit the sink, and I blacked out for a second. When I came to, I noticed that the demon was gone. I looked in the mirror, but he wasn't there. I checked everywhere, under the sink, in the shower, but he was nowhere to be found. Then I looked back at the toilet, and there he was. He was sitting on the toilet like nothing had happened. I stared at him dumbfounded, and he stared back at me. It was probably 30 seconds of awkward silence before he finally spoke again. Are you okay?" he asked me, sounding genuinely concerned. "What do you say to a demon that's sitting on your toilet?" I had no idea. I just stared at him speechless. I was about to say something, anything, but then he stood up and walked away. That's when I noticed that he was naked. Well, I already knew that he was naked. I just hadn't realized how naked he was. If a demon was going to invade someone's privacy, I guess it would be better if he were naked. The thought crossed my mind because that's the kind of guy I am. I'm rational and logical. I always try to find the best in every situation. The demon walked out of the bathroom without a word and disappeared into my bedroom. I could hear him moving around in my bed, like he was making a nest or something. I still don't know what he was doing. And that brings me to the second point of this story. Why was the demon in my apartment? What did he want? I tried to ask myself these questions, but I was afraid to go into my bedroom and find out. So I just lay there in bed trying to fall back asleep. I tossed and turned for hours, But eventually the sun came up, and I was able to fall back into a deep slumber. The next morning, I got up and went straight to my bedroom. I was hoping that the demon had left overnight, but I was wrong. He had made a nest out of my comforter and pillows, and he was sleeping soundly. I swear to God, it looked like a demon baby's nest. Now, I can't believe I did this, but I was so scared that I started screaming as loud as I could. The demon opened his eyes and flew out of the window. I was sure that he was gone, so I called my realtor and told him to show my apartment. That way I could move out immediately. As soon as the realtor stepped into the apartment, he agreed. It was such a relief to get out of that apartment, but unfortunately, the demon followed me. I'll spare you the details, but he showed up in every apartment I moved to after that. At this point, I was desperate, so I called the one person I knew who could help me, my friend Michael. Michael was different. He could see things others couldn't, and he knew more about the world than anyone else I knew. After hearing my story, he simply nodded his head and said, "I knew you'd call." He drove me to an apartment complex in Harlem and told me to move in. "This will confuse him," Michael said, referring to the demon. Demons don't like being confused. They like routine and order. If you keep changing apartments, they'll eventually leave you alone. Michael was right. The demon never showed up again. However, I still can't look at mirrors the same way. There is a part of me that is always looking over my shoulder waiting for the demon to pounce. As silly as it sounds, the experience changed me, and it made me more aware of the world around me. I'm not as carefree as I once was, and that's all because of a demon. Now let me tell you another story about a demon. The scariest part is that this one is true. One day, I was walking down the street when I saw a group of kids playing basketball. They were good, like pros. One of them was a girl, and she was the best player on the team. She was about 12 years old with long, flowing hair. As I watched her play, I noticed that the other kids were afraid of her. Every time she got close to them, they stumbled and fell down. I thought it was strange, but I didn't think much of it until I saw her walk past a group of men. The men were laughing and joking around, but as soon as the girl passed by, their faces changed. They stopped laughing and bowed their heads. It was as if they were praying. I didn't understand what was happening until I heard one of the men speak. "Oh, great demon," he said. "Please forgive us." Then they all walked away quickly. I was stunned. Did they just bow down to a child? What kind of witchcraft is this? I decided to follow them and see what they were up to. And that's when I saw the truth. The men led me to an abandoned building, and inside they were worshiping the young girl. They called her a demon and begged her for forgiveness. They told her that they had done evil things and that they needed her to cleanse them. She would walk among them, and they would fall to their knees and beg for mercy. I was horrified. Was this girl really a demon? How could she control these men so easily? I wanted to run away, but something kept me there. Maybe it was curiosity, or maybe it was fear. All I know is that I watched as the men were cleansed and then they left. The girl sat alone in the middle of the room and cried. I walked up to her and asked what was happening. She looked at me and smiled sadly. "I'm not a demon," she whispered, "but sometimes I wish I were." Then she told me her story. Her name was Sarah, and she had a rare medical condition. It made her entire body feel very sore and inflamed. The only thing that stopped the pain was water. So she spent most of her days in a pool or shower. Her parents took her to doctors, but no one could diagnose her condition. Eventually, they gave up and told her to just live with the pain. That's when Sarah discovered the abandoned building. She would spend hours in the shower, and the water would make her feel better. The men found her there one day, and they begged her to cure them. Sarah didn't know what was wrong with them, but she was desperate for friends, so she agreed. She walked among them, and they fell to their knees. She didn't know why, but she liked the attention. I listened to Sarah's story and felt terrible for her. I wanted to help, but I didn't know how. Then I had an idea. I told her that I knew some doctors who might be able to help. She looked at me and smiled. "Thank you," she whispered. "But I don't think anyone can help me." I didn't believe her, but I didn't press her. Instead, I helped her out of the building, and we walked together in silence. We reached her house, and I turned to leave. That's when she stopped me. "Wait," she said. "I want to show you something." She led me back into the building and up to the roof. We sat down and looked at the city. "This is my favorite place," she said softly. "It's the only place where I can breathe." I understood. Sarah was like me. We both felt different and misunderstood. I knew that she wasn't a demon, but sometimes I think she wished she were. This is one of the scariest stories I've ever heard. Let me know in the comments below if you think the girl was a demon. And don't forget to stay tuned for more content.